Wow, after a wild Week 18, the dust has finally settled, and the 2026 NFL playoff picture is officially set. We've got 14 teams, but there's only one goal: hoisting that Lombardi trophy. The road to Super Bowl LX is paved, and let me tell you, it is going to be a fascinating journey. Let's break it all down.
So, what are we going to cover here? Well, we're cutting through all the noise to give you everything you absolutely need to know. We'll lay out the entire playoff bracket, we'll spotlight the must-see games, and we'll dive into the really juicy storylines that are going to define this postseason.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we'll get a quick look at the whole 14-team field. Then we'll dive into the AFC contenders, followed by the NFC contenders. From there, we'll get into the actual wildcard matchups kicking everything off. And we'll wrap it all up with the storylines you have to follow.
So let's start with the big picture. The long, grueling regular season, it's over. And for these 14 teams, it's a clean slate. Everybody's 0-0. This is now a single elimination tournament. You lose, you go home. Simple as that.
Yep, 14 teams. That's the magic number. And as you'd expect, it's split right down the middle. 7 teams from the AFC, the American Football Conference, and 7 from the NFC, the National Football Conference. Each conference is basically its own little tournament, and the 2 champs will face off in the Super Bowl.
All right, let's start with the AFC side of the bracket. And what a mix we have here. You've got your dominant division winners, and then some really tough wildcard teams who had to scratch and claw just to get in.
And here it is, the full AFC lineup. Right at the top, the Denver Broncos. They won the AFC West, and more importantly, they grabbed that #1 seed. We'll talk about why that's so huge in a sec. Then you've got your other division champs, the Patriots, the Jaguars, and the Steelers. And rounding it out are the 3 wildcard teams, the Texans, the Bills, and the Chargers.
Okay, so why is that #1 seed such a big deal? It's all about the bye. Basically, it's a golden ticket to skip the first round. While everyone else is beating each other up on wildcard weekend, the Broncos get to kick back, relax, heal up, and just prepare. It's a massive advantage.
All right, let's jump over to the NFC side of things. And trust me, the path to the Super Bowl here is just as tough. This conference is absolutely loaded with heavy hitters.
So taking a look at the NFC, you've got the Seattle Seahawks sitting pretty at #1, champions of the NFC West. Then come the other division winners, the Bears up north, the Eagles out east, and, well, the Panthers down south. And we'll get to them in a bit. Then look at this wild card group, just a murderer's row, the Rams, the 49ers, and the Packers. Wow.
And just like we saw with the Broncos, that top seed pays off big time for Seattle. They also get that week off. But maybe even more important, they get home field advantage all the way through the playoffs. That means if you want to get to the Super Bowl from the NFC, you have to go through Seattle. And let me tell you, winning there as a visitor is one of the toughest things to do in all of sports.
Okay, so we know the top seeds are on vacation. So who's actually playing this weekend? Let's break down the 6 games that are going to kick off this whole postseason.
First up, in the AFC, we've got 3 killer matchups. You've got the #7 Chargers heading to Foxborough to take on the #2 Patriots. Then, the Bills travel down to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. And to top it off, a classic AFC North slugfest, the Texans versus the Steelers. And you can bet the Broncos will be watching every single snap because they get to play the lowest-seeded winner from this round.
Man, the NFC matchups are something else. We've got one of the oldest rivalries in football, the Packers going into Soldier Field to face the Bears. That's going to be electric. Then, the 49ers fly all the way across the country to play the Eagles. And finally, the Rams head to Carolina to take on the Panthers. And just like the Broncos, the Seahawks are just waiting to see who the lowest-seeded survivor is.
Okay, we've got the bracket. We know who's playing where, but what makes the playoffs truly great are the stories, right? The drama, the weird quirks. Let's get into the stuff that makes this postseason so compelling.
You know, we always think of the playoffs as being for the best of the best, but that leads to a really weird question, one that almost feels like a trick. Is it possible for a team with a losing record to actually host a playoff game?
Well, let me introduce you to the Carolina Panthers. Their final record for the season? 8-9. Yep, a losing record.
And believe it or not, the answer is a resounding yes. It's one of the weirdest quirks in the NFL rulebook. Because the Panthers managed to win their division, the NFC South, they automatically get a top 4 seed in a home game. It doesn't matter that their record is worse than some of the teams visiting them. It's a huge point of debate every single year. But hey, rules are rules.
Okay, From a weird rule to just pure, unadulterated drama. The Pittsburgh Steelers didn't just stumble into the playoffs. No, they kicked the door down in the most heart-stopping way you can imagine.
Think about this. Their entire season, all 18 weeks of it, came down to one single play. And it wasn't even their play. It was a field goal attempt by their arch-rival, the Baltimore Ravens, in the final seconds. And the kick was no good. It sailed wide. That miss didn't just win the game for Pittsburgh. It won them the AFC North title and punched their ticket to the postseason. You just can't make this stuff up.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about underdogs. Because when you look at the wild card teams, they're not all built the same. And if you ask the folks in Vegas who set the betting lines, there's one team in particular that is a massive threat.
And that team would be the Los Angeles Rams. Get this, even though they're a number 5 seed and playing on the road, the odds makers have them as the biggest favorite of any team this weekend. Why? Maybe it's their quarterback, who's been on fire, or maybe it's that terrifying defense. Whatever it is, the experts think the Rams aren't just here for one game. They could be here for the long haul. Definitely a team to watch.
So there you have it. That's the roadmap. It all starts this weekend, January 10th to the 12th, with Wild Card Weekend. The winners move on to the divisional round the next week, where the Broncos and Seahawks will be waiting. Then it's the conference championships, and finally, on February 8th, the last 2 teams standing will battle it out for it all in Super Bowl LX.
The stage is set. The matchups are locked in. The stories are just waiting to be written. 14 teams start this journey, but only one will get to call themselves champion. The path is there, but who is going to walk it? The only question left is, which of these teams is destined for the history books?